Great, so let's come into our seated position. Taking your less preferred cross-legged position. Just spending a little time making finely tuned adjustments so you can feel the alignment of the pose and the ease. And when you feel ready, join your hands together in front of your heart. Looking away from your brain. Starting to sense into your body, all throughout the body. Bringing attention to your breath. Giving yourself permission to leave aside whatever is coming next in your day. Inviting yourself to this practice of presence. And maybe allowing some sort of intention to come into your heart for this practice or for your day. Maybe something specific to your yoga practice. Maybe it's something just in general for your life, for yourself, for another person. And as you're ready, lowering the chin towards the chest, bringing the chest towards the chin as well. Releasing your hands. Inhaling, lifting your head, letting your eyes gently open. Welcome. So as we know, yoga is all about balance and equalizing imbalances. And the forward bending practice is largely imbalanced with kind of an overwhelming potential dullness because of the spine going into that forward bending position. And so to bring balance to these set of poses, we really need to find the action. And so this practice is going to be called pricking our consciousness so that we can stay very alert and attentive in these poses, which sometimes have the potential to make us really dull or kind of complacent, or the mind wanders. So we're going to be spending more attention on the action of the legs and let the forward bending be secondary to the action of the legs. And also I'm hoping that in doing that, we're not yanking and tugging on our backs, which already get a lot of forward flexion, that we're more tapping into what serves the back to do these deep forward bends. So we're going to come into child's pose first and just begin there. And you might need to prop it, you might not, but try to get your head down and your arms extended, which might mean you have to prop your head. And with your hands forward, gently pulling the hands toward the body, not actually moving the hands, but scrubbing the hands toward the body, which keeps the shoulders really engaged and keeps the joint happy in the shoulder. Also helps the breastbone move forward rather than back. And keep finding additional weight to your buttocks, to your sitting bones, even to your toenails, the tailbone directing down toward the floor. We're going to come into Parjvaparangustasana, which is side moving child's pose. We'll move to the right to begin with. So start to lift yourself up enough that you can bring your torso over your right thigh. Really try to center yourself over the thigh and then come in lower, which won't be as low as before because now the thigh is in the way. So just let your head bow gently. You don't need to rest it on the floor. Sensing the left side body elongating. Trying to keep your left hip back, not letting it turn with the arms, with the torso. And as your body allows, you might continue to move farther to the right. You're going to begin to make your way back to center. And you can keep moving on over to the left. Again, try to bring your torso up over that left thigh. Return your arms to the straight position, fully extended position. The wrist should be shoulder distance wide. And again, try not to let the right hip move with the torso, kind of resist it back so you're creating more extension to the right side body. Traveling on if you have the instinct to do so, otherwise just staying where you are. And then on an inhalation, you'll begin to make your way back to center. And then you can crawl your hands toward yourself to bring yourself upright. And we'll come into hero pose and start to set up your hero pose using maybe a blanket under your shins, maybe a block under your sitting bones, taking some time to adjust your legs so that you see the four corners of the knees are all evenly pointing forward, that your toes are all sitting down evenly. And once you have your legs set up, your feet set up, bring your hands to the soles of the feet and just press down. This invites the shoulders back. It also gives us extra attention to anchoring into the legs and feet. And this is one of the best poses we can do to keep our legs elongated, especially the quadriceps and the fronts of the shins, opening the front ankles and also supporting the arches of the feet, which usually have an opposite orientation with gravity. And just gently take the tailbone into the body, adjusting the pelvis slightly back. Make sure your skull is right above your spine. We are going to twist here, so I usually recommend an additional block right behind your lower back so that you can touch down, that you don't have to reach down to the floor and angle the trunk. We want to keep the trunk really upright. So just go back to your legs, really gripping the outer shins to the floor. On an in-breath, raise your arms. And on an exhale, we're going to turn right. So the left hand finds the right thigh, the right hand comes behind you on that block. And your twist might not come readily available. So just be patient. Every exhale, notice if the spine is willing to turn a bit more. Every inhale, kind of float some length up the spine. Keeping lots of attention in the lower body. Keeping your eyes soft. And eventually turning your head as far as you can to the right. And then come to the end of an exhalation, and on an in-breath, raise the arms, lengthen back to center, reach up through the arms. Exhale, we're going to move to the left. Right hand to the left thigh, left hand behind you. Start with a neutral chin above chest. neck position. Really try to bring your right armpit chest around. Keep rolling your outer shins to the floor. And again, move the head when you sense that the twist is near the neck. Turn the head and look as far over the left shoulder as you can. And on an in-breath, lengthen back to center, raise the arms. And exhale, release your arms down. So now we're going to transition to Dandasana. So you want to prop your sitting bones with a blanket or 2 blankets. And Dandasana is a great way to kind of counter hero pose, to really extend the legs and open up the backs of the knees. So once you're on the edge of the blanket, take a moment to just pull the flesh out from under the sitting bones. Try to join the legs and feet. Attempt to put your toes right above your heels. If you see that the inner feet are closer to your body than the outer feet, which is the sickling, you want to reach the inner edges of the feet away from your body. Take your hands next to your hips and just kind of squeeze the elbows in a little closer. Try to position your skull right above your spine. And anchor into your legs. So if you're doing this correctly, your legs should be getting tired. So your hands are there to keep your shoulders above your hips and you're stacking weight right over the sitting bones. You're pressing your legs into the floor actively. Think about the gaps behind the knees becoming minimized, shrinking. Use your shoulder blades to help your chest stay forward. And keep your eyes rooted to the back of the head. Good. And now you can sit back enough that you're able to step your feet to the floor and cross your ankles. We're going to be coming into a table pose. You can slide your blankets out of the way. So if our legs are really shortened and tight, we're not going to get very far with our forward bends because everything starts from the floor and moves up the body. So we're gonna work really with opening the legs here, extending the left leg back with the toes tucked under on the floor. So take your toes to the floor and then sit back with your weight until you're feeling the left leg really elongated. Maybe it's the calf muscle, maybe it's the hamstring. So you're pushing your weight gently back so that you can really access the leg. Another way you can deepen this is to take the toes underneath as well as you can. So really tucking those left toes underneath. And just like you did in Dandasana, really try to open the back of the knee. Your leg should be firm like a Tadasana leg. Kneecap is really engaging well with the thigh muscles. And now we're going to pivot the foot, the left foot. So we're going to come into modified side plank. So pivot the left foot so that it's resting in alignment with the right knee. Some people need a little stabilization. You can swing your right shin out sideways for a little more support. And then you're going to be weight bearing to the right arm, taking the left hand to the left hip. Do your best to kind of roll that right buttock to the left edge of the mat. And then we're just going to take a nice big sweeping like a clock arm and move in one complete circle. And you're going to finish where the arm is resting next to the left ear. So like a side angle pose arm. And once you're there, do your best to bring the left ear to the left biceps. So you're not dropping your head. Keep rolling that right buttock to the left edge of the mat. And maybe reach down with the outer edge of your left foot. You might even feel that show up in your left side body all the way up to the hip or beyond. And now we're going to transition up to gait pose, which can be a big transition. So you try to use an in-breath. You might need to kind of move it in baby steps. You're going to come into this gait pose position. Drop the left hand down to your left thigh. Inhale the right arm up and open, and then lengthen to the left. Now sensing the right side body opening up. Keeping that left leg firm, your hand is right there, so you should have that kind of ability to check in on the leg and see if it's nice and firm. And now on an in-breath, you're going to lengthen up and over with that right arm. Come back to the floor and find your way into sunbird with the left leg lifting, fully engaged, fully straight, level with the floor, toes pointing straight down. And then as you're ready, extending the right arm. And as you're ready, finding your way back to table pose. And from there, extending the right leg back with the toes tucked under on the floor, just to really give a nice big stretch to the right leg. Sit back with your weight a little bit. Really try to extend the right toes toward the top of your mat. Breathe into the stretch you feel. And remember to keep opening the back of the knee. Even though gravity is having that right thigh moving toward the floor, your job is to have the back of the right thigh absorbing the front of the right thigh, away from the floor. Two more breaths. And now we're going to pivot the right foot and line it up, line the instep up with the left foot. Shifting your weight to the left, begin to turn your chest to the right. You might swing your left shin kind of out wider so you feel a little more stable. Take your right hand to your right hip. And then stacking the arm, we're going to do that one big circle. It's almost like 1 1/4 because we're going to end up next to the ear, but really try to reach out through the fingertips. Like a big sweeping clock arm until you find that arm aligning with your right ear. Keep trying to peak your chest toward the ceiling, roll the left buttock to the right edge of the mat. Breathe. We're going to take an inhale to find our way to gait pose. Again, you can come into that pose any way that works in your body. Try to move on an in-breath. Take my blankets out of my way here. Resting the right hand on the right leg. Bringing the left arm up. And then exhale, extending to the right, opening the left side body. So twisting and lateral movement is also very helpful to find more depth and ease in forward extensions. We're tucking a few of those in here early in the practice to get all the mobility, all the actions of the spine on board. On an in-breath, you're going to use your left arm to kind of guide you back to your table pose. And then we will extend the right leg for a sunbird here and the left arm. Just a couple breaths. And now placing the hand, placing the knee, find your way to downward facing dog. Keep your heels lifted, knees bent, and do your best to bring your chest toward your thighs, to bring your thighs from front to back, to open your knees, backs of the knees. And after all of that, then we see about the heels, and they might only move a millimeter, but let those other things that come beforehand be more important. Chest moving toward thighs, thighs compressing back, backs of the knees yawning open, and then the heels descending. So stay with it 3 more breaths. If you need to leave early, you're going to tiptoe into the standing forward bend. And now on an inhale, just begin to creep the feet toward the wrists. We did this last week, but it's really helpful to open the legs. We're going to elevate the front feet. So you can grab your blanket, probably the same thing you use for Dandasana. We just want to step on an edge of it. You're going to step on the edge of your blanket with your toes and your ball mounds. And because it's kind of precarious, you might step the feet into a hip distance width for a little more stabilization. And then you might need your blocks. So remember, it's not about tipping our weight back into the heels. We want to keep pressure down in the front feet. Look forward. Lift your belly toward your back. Really firm up the legs. It's full extension of your legs. And on an exhale, bring your chest toward your thighs front to back. And make this way more about your legs than the back. We're not trying to yank on the back. We're not trying to have imbalanced discs. Keep the pelvic tilt really strongly tilting forward. Like you could hold pencils in your hip creases. Like you've been folded in half like a piece of origami. We're going to stay 5 more breaths. On an inhale, look forward and just gently, safely step off of your blanket edge. Move your blocks aside, move your blanket aside, and find your way up to standing. So let's keep the hip distance spacing for mountain pose. You're going to find the tripod of each of your feet, the toes, the ball mounds, and the heels. You're going to lift your toes from the floor. Really anchor into your heels, but also feeling some anchoring through the ball mounds. Shoulders line up with hips, palms either facing your thighs or turning slightly forward. Tailbone moving in. Chest is lifted, skull is aligning above the spine. Just keep the toes lifting and the heels descending. This keeps your leg in that really effortful, engaged Tadasana state. Gently close the eyes, look toward your cheeks. Good. So we want to kind of mimic these legs. We're going to come into Parjvaparangustasana Tanasana with a chair. If you want to go deeper, you can use your blocks. But I wanted to make this practice less about, your full depth in the forward bend, more about the legs staying active. So whatever's best for you today, blocks or a chair seat. We're going to be taking the right foot forward and the left foot back and taking hold of the edges of the chair seat or the blocks so that you're evenly aligning over that right leg. So just if it's helpful to you to keep your legs really pricked with awareness, if it's helpful to you, keep your toes lifting off the floor. It helps the legs stay engaged in that really deep, strong, effortful state. Start with your Ardha position, concave or flat lumbar. And just make sure your breastbone is pretty well lining up with your right leg. Try to squeeze your hips together. Inhale for length, and then exhale. Start to find your way into your first full forward bend, wherever that is. The head should surrender down. And just keep the action, the effort, the attention going in your legs. The byproduct of that will be a deep forward bend. If we can tap into the power of the legs. The legs are like big, strong stems. And the upper body is like the blossom of the flower. So it's important if you're hypermobile that you're not locking out your right knee, because you can do that and still not have an engaged leg. So if you're hypermobile, if you tend to hyperextend your knees, you have to keep a micro bend in your knee. It doesn't actually look like your knee is bent, but you're kind of backing off from your fullest extension so that you have a more balanced position. You're not exploiting hypermobility. Make sure that you're not sloping down your right hip. Remember, there's imbalance because of asymmetrical legs. So just roll up on the outer right hip, which draws down the outer left hip. And then see if you can kind of clamp your legs toward each other for the last 3 breaths. That really gets them fired up. Squeezing the legs toward one another. Wonderful. On your in-breath, you're going to start to lead the pose. Look forward. Bring your hands back onto the chair if you took your arms down or the blocks. And then you're just going to switch out your legs. So if you're working with blocks or chair, the props have to move slightly to the left so that you're lining up with the torso over the left shin now. We'll begin here with long arms. Squeezing the hips together. Firming the legs, picking up the toes if that's helpful to you. Really contracting the quadricep muscles surrounding the knee. Try to create even sides of your torso. We especially get short on the forward leg side, so the left side has a potential to kind of shorten. So roll the outer left hip back. Come to the top of an in-breath. And now lengthen forward, Pashimo Tanasana, intense side stretching pose. The head just surrenders down. Keep your legs really on board, on duty, in action. Keep imagining the flesh of the legs moving from front to back. Your chest closing in on your thigh. Strong forward pelvic tilt, like you're pouring something out the front rim of the pelvis. Make sure you have an arch to your right foot. Grab the floor with the outer right foot if you lost that arch. Keep extending toes forward. And now the last few breaths, clamp your feet together, clamp your legs toward each other. And in breath, look forward. And now we're going to help ourselves come back to mountain pose. You might be able to join your feet. You might keep the spacing for a little more stability, but try to line the second toes up with the heels. Once your eyes are closed, just bringing attention back to the 3 little contact points your feet make with the floor. The toes can be just lightly lifted away from the floor, and maybe a slight amount of additional weight to the heels. And as the thighs move toward the backs, move the tailbone forward so you feel stabilized that way. with buttocks forward. Shoulders back, breastbone forward. Good. Now blinking the eyes open. Give your legs a little shake. They've been doing a lot. So everybody has a chair, I believe, and we're going to work with our standing hand to big toe poses with the chair. So we're going to first start with the seat of the chair. And we're going to be taking, I'm going to turn so you can see you should see me better. We're going to be taking the right foot onto the chair seat. So the imbalance here is we have this heavy kind of dumping weight into the left leg feeling. We have this floating in the breeze feeling with the right leg. So we're going to bring balance to that. You can take hold of your hips. You're going to press down through your right foot, which automatically gives a little more lightness to your standing leg. And this is helping you bring balance to these poses, which have one aerial leg, one standing leg. So when you do this, you're going to feel that you just leveled your hips, hopefully, whereas before we had this floating right hip, we had this collapsing left hip. So hopefully when you step down firmly in the right foot, you feel your left hip lift and your right hip lower, and you feel more level and even. So the irony here is that we're trying to get this thigh closer to us, but not in a way that hikes the hip. So we have to kind of learn to master that, kind of that oppositional work. Hope that made sense. So now we're going to move to the higher part of the chair. And for some of us, you're going to need to pad the chair with a blanket or something so that you're not uncomfortable. If you're near a wall or you think you might have a balance issue, you might want to be near a wall, just so that you can get your right ankle or heel onto the chair. So again, just without doing the wise action, notice the imbalance. We're falling into the standing leg. The right hip is floating out into the breeze. So now just kind of press down through your right ankle or heel, whatever is touching the chair. Feel in turn the left femur bone moving up into the hip socket. Feel some balance coming. Maybe you keep using some support with your hand somewhere. Maybe you're able to take your hands to your hips and just try to look straight ahead. We know that a level gaze on the horizon kind of equalizes the spine and gives us a bit more stability. And just see if you can kind of keep working with that idea of the aerial leg needing more weight, the standing leg needing to find a sense of lightness. This is going to help your freestanding hand to big toes, toe poses one day, someday. Okay, so we're going to gently, safely find our way to other side. Starting with the left foot just kind of pressing down on the chair seat. First, sensing what happens without wise actions. And then trying to create equanimity in the body. So pushing your foot into the seat of the chair, which drops the hip without dropping the thigh, which lifts the right hip, which lifts or brings a sense of upward moving energy through your standing leg, which we need. Remember, it's a stem. And then as you're ready, you can extend the leg and work with the higher part of the chair. Rest your heel or rest your ankle, whatever is better for you. We all have different chairs too we have to work with. Maybe taking some support to the wall, maybe bringing your hands to your hips. Keep pressing down with the aerial leg, finding a sense of lift with the standing leg. And once you've created pelvic stability, then you have a whole lot of stability because that's your center of gravity. Look forward. Keep your standing leg in that effortful state. You might even float the toes from the floor just to kind of help that effortful state be maintained, help the firmness of the leg really continue on. Okay, now we're going to continue with these. We're going into Parjvaparangustasana. So the right leg is going to step down onto the chair seat, just like you did earlier with the head-on version of Parangustasana. This is very much like Gait Pose. Your right toes should be pointing out 90 degrees. Just taking your right hand to the inner knee and pressing that knee back and rotating your torso from right to left. And keep your left hand on your hip and just kind of pin the elbow in. Breathe into your right inner thigh. And continue that work of stepping down into your aerial leg and finding a lighter quality in your standing leg. Find the horizon line. Keep rolling the right buttock toward the front body. And then if you're able to, we're going to do the extended leg version. If that's compromising your sense of stability today, keep working with the bent knee. We're going to take the right heel or ankle onto the higher part of the chair. You can also take it to the lower part of the chair with the leg extended, if that's a wiser choice. So you can gently take the hand to the inner right knee. You're going to rotate the torso away from that right side to point the hips and shoulders squarely at the broad side of the mat. Remember, when you're lying down, we want to keep that really level sacrum. So keeping your left hip and shoulder back. Don't let it peel away from the wall behind you. And then press down through your right heel and feel a sense of lifting or lightness in the left leg. Couple breaths. Good work. Okay, so you're going to safely find a way to step the foot down. You're going to safely transfer your chair or your body, whatever way you're doing it, so that we can start with the bent knee version of Parjvaparangustasana. So now another thing that happens with the standing leg in these lateral versions of the Parangustasanas is we push out into the standing leg. So now not only are you trying to lift your standing leg up, but you're also trying to pull the outer hip bone in toward midline. Make sure you have nice pressure of your left foot into the chair, which will help the standing leg lighten. And you're revolving your trunk from left to right. Now you might stay here. You might extend the leg going low to the seat or going high to the upper part of the chair. We want to keep the standing leg right under us, so make sure you're distanced appropriately from your chair so your standing leg is not kickstanding out or too narrow either. And find a way to press down through your left leg, to lift up through your standing leg, and to suck that outer left hip bone, sorry, I meant to say right hip bone, in, even though it wants to poke out. Pull it in. Beautiful. Wonderful. So safely, gently, slowly find your way down. And now you're going to face your chair. And you can either work here, we're going to start right away with the straight leg, so we're not doing the bent knee version, but you can either work with the low seat or the higher back of the chair. Right leg is going to be resting on the seat or the back of the chair, not leg, but your foot or your heel, whatever it is. If you're working with the seat, you might want to throw a blanket down again so that you don't feel uncomfortable with your foot against the surface of the chair. And now we're going to kind of come into Parivrtta, which is the rotating, revolving version of hand to big toe. So So you can just gently take your left hand to your right thigh and your right hand to your right hip. And you're going to start to turn your chest to the right. You may eventually be able to extend the right arm out to the side, revolving your trunk as well as you can to the right. Keep pressing down with your right foot and finding a way to lift up with your standing leg. And then gently help yourself turn. So if you don't have a wall access and you felt really wobbly there, you might do the very same thing on the left side with a bent knee, which will be more stable. If you don't have the stability, you're not going to get very far. So just make sure that you're honoring the needful in your body. It would be a much better pose with a bent knee if you're stable than if you have a straight leg and you're wobbling and worrying about tipping over. So you're going to choose your own adventure here. Stepping down on the chair, extending the leg with the heel on the chair, or taking that higher position. Right hand will take left thigh to kind of initiate that revolving action in this pose. Hug your hips together, press down with the aerial leg, find a lightness with your standing leg, revolve your trunk to the left, and eventually you might get that signal that you can extend that left arm out sideways, which will really help your momentum continue to turn left. You can extend out through the fingertips. You might even be able to turn and look, but for some of us that piece is down the road once we feel stable enough to do it. Keep compacting your standing leg, Tadasana actions, front to back. Wonderful. And now gently turning to come out of it and helping yourself step down. Great. Now, we're going to come to seated. And you're going to sit on the edge of a blanket. You decide how much height you need to get your lower back to feel supported, to get your lower back flat or even concave. So we're trying to avoid any rounding. We're going to come into Marichyasana. So you want to be right on the edge of the blanket. Move the flesh out from the sitting bone, underneath the sitting bones. We're going to do the forward bending Marichyasana because there's also the twisting version. But it's great to come into the forward bending version with a little bit of lateral movement. So just kind of scoop up behind the right knee and bring the right heel close to your sitting bone, but observing that your lower back is staying upright, that you didn't just collapse onto your tailbone. So that might mean your heel has to step farther from the body to allow for your back to remain upright. You're going to take both hands over to the left here. And not only are you going to kind of crawl forward, so you're kind of angling your torso down toward the floor, but you're also going to start to crawl the hands farther to the left. And keep a little attention on your right knee. It's going to want to kind of probably fall out to the side. So bringing weight to your inner right foot will keep that knee more upright. And now you're going to crawl your way back out of that lateral movement. And you're going to find your strap and take hold of your left foot. So the arms should be within the space of the right leg, which gets a little crowded. So somehow we must squeeze that knee in and don't let your chest retreat back. Find a way to move your shoulder blades in to keep your chest forward. Anchor into your right leg. Step down into the foot, bring some weight into the foot. Scrub the left heel toward the left hip. You might wrap your hands on your strap here. And now try to come forward, not with your chin, not with your shoulders, but with your chest. And again, we're not super concerned about the deepest Marichyasana here. I want you to kind of tap into the power of your legs. Keep squeezing your right knee toward your shoulder. Keep moving your left heel toward your left hip, which in turn brings your torso farther out over that left leg. Continue to line yourself up with your left leg, torso in line with left leg. Continue to hold weight to the inner right foot. And on an in-breath, bring yourself out of it. You're going to let this leg fall open and set up for Shivshasana, which I always find is really nice after Marichyasana. After that hip abduction, we get to have a more externally rotated hip. Try to draw your right heel in as close to your upper inner thigh as you can. Ideally, your right knee is moving back behind the line of the hip. So you can just kind of move the knee back, the heel in. And you're going to use your fingertips again to help you turn and steer your torso to face the left leg. We're going to use that strap again if you can catch the bottom side of the foot. Wrap your hands if that's helpful to you. And then make as heavy of a right leg as you can. Try to extend from your inner thigh out through your inner knee. Keep turning your trunk to the left. And again, try not to lead with your chin, try not to lead with your shoulders. Let your breastbone lead you. Aligning the neck so it's smooth and even. You might soften your gaze because our gaze tends to kind of drag us around. It might feel like you're a mile from that leg. Maybe close your eyes and really have this be about what you sense rather than what you see. Keep gently moving left heel toward left hip and bringing extra weight to your right Shivshasana leg. Inhale up. Good. Standing up your right leg and extending it. And then give a little bounce or a shake to release the effort of your legs. Okay, Marichyasana, we'll do the same thing other side. You might need to adjust sometimes those sitting bones get back, they close back together, the flesh got back under there, so just make sure you're coming from a fresh start. Scooping behind the left knee. The heel comes in as close as you can bring it without the lower back collapsing. So keep it upright, keep your sitting bones right underneath you. We're going to be bringing our hands to the outer right leg now. And you're just going to kind of crawl them forward so you're angling your trunk a little bit more over the floor. Watch that left knee, or don't actually watch it, but sense the left knee. You know it wants to float out. So bringing weight to your inner left foot to anchor that knee back in line. Start to crawl the hands farther to the right. Breathe into your back body. And begin to gently creep back around and out of that side movement. And you're going to catch the bottom of your right foot now. Arms are coming within the space of the left leg. And you're wrapping the hands so that your elbows are back, your shoulders are back, your chest is forward. Keep some weight to your inner left foot. And if it's hard to do that, I can see Vern, it's a little hard. Step the foot wider, there you go. Then it's easier to balance the foot. Okay, come forward from the breastbone. And again, it might help to close the eyes. We can sense that the same action, if you think about right leg being your standing leg, left leg being your aerial leg here, which by the way isn't a pose, but it's the same concept. we need to reverse what's happening. You're probably pushing out into your right foot. You're probably dragging that left heel toward your buttock. I want you to pull your right heel toward your buttock and gently push forward with your left foot. This is going to propel your trunk to glide over that extended leg. It's going to bring more balance to the pelvis. Good. Inhale up. And now we're going to prepare for Shivshasana. You might just leave your strap where it is. You're going to let the knee fall out. There's a few adjustments we have to make. The heel comes in. You might turn in your seat a little bit so the knee is behind the line of the hip. You might need to prop your left knee. Good. Grabbing your strap. Reaching out from the inner thigh of the left knee out through the inner knee. Driving that leg down with nice weight. Scrubbing your right heel toward your right hip socket. Aligning yourself over the right leg. Leading from the chest. Do your best to pull your right toes toward you. Reach out through the heel to squeeze the gap closed behind the right knee. And see if you can bring your right heel and left knee, clamp them together. Clamp, clamp, clamp. Inhale up. Good. Standing up your left knee, extending your left leg. So usually in forward bending practice, the grand finale is Pashimo Tanasana, which is the seated Western facing forward bend. So from Dandasana position. We do want to get the head down, so that might mean your chair seat is going to come over your legs, because you might know that your head coming down to your legs either through props or directly is maybe not a wise choice or not possible. So give yourself enough height that you're able to reach some sort of surface with your head. You can use any combination of props that build that height up to meet you. Okay. So once you have set it up and you've tested that it's going to work, and remember you can also add the height of the two fists or hands. Sit tall in Dandasana. Tilt the pelvis forward, lead with your chest. Remember, this is a really kind of safe way to come into forward extensions. And then creating that little surface, that little perch for your head, where you can quietly hold the pose. And we won't get dull or sleepy or bored or complacent here. The mind won't wander, because we're keeping awareness and effort going in the legs. The very same wise actions we've been doing this whole practice. Heels toward the hips. Compressing the legs to the floor. Extending out through the heels like you're in mountain pose. Your toes lifted away from the floor. The ball mounds also engaging. Make sure to adjust the height into the head if your body has elongated, if you're deepening into this pose. Now inhale and lengthen yourself up. So before Shavasana, we just need to kind of rebalance the body from all this forward extension. So we'll do a supported bridge pose. You can do the lower plane of the block or the medium plane of the block, right under the sacrum, running across the spine, the horizontal direction. And you'll probably start with your knees bent, and you might stay with your knees bent. But if your body starts to ask for a little bit more back extension, which is how we remedy all this forward extension, then you might extend your legs one at a time. Nice and wide, resting on the heels. Try to have your palms face up. Your chest and chin closing in on each other. Your gaze toward your cheeks. And if you did extend your legs, start to bring your feet back underneath the knees. Lift up enough you can slide your block out of the way. And just windshield wiper the knees side to side a few times. The feet should be wide. Your head can move in the opposite direction of the knees. Make it nice and slow. Taking the legs sideways on the exhales. And after a few of these, your back should settle down. You should feel more neutral, hopefully. So then do anything you need before Shavasana, movement-wise, or gathering support props. And start to set yourself up for final resting pose. You want to try to do a few things to support the body, the senses, drawing away from the outer world. So try not to be touching your props through your feet or fingertips unless it's a blanket over your body. Remove glasses if you wear them. Use an eye cover if it's effortful to keep your eyes shut. And make sure you've set the pose up well as far as the alignment, the positioning of the torso, legs, buttocks, flesh, chest, shoulders, skull. And then from there, becoming as effortless as you can. Sensing whatever remains from this practice. Residual energy, maybe residual quietness. Maybe a potential for presence. Try to sense the heaviest parts of your body and encourage them to really meet the floor with greater depth, greater surrender. And this is a shorter Shavasana, so I welcome you to stay if you'd like. Otherwise, if you're going to leave with me now, you can start to Gently fold the arms in, step the feet to the floor. Ease yourself to one side. And gently find your way up. So we have a few people staying in Shavasana, so we'll just close quietly here once you're up. Let's keep the hands together in front of the heart. Just stay long enough to notice any effects from this practice. Lifting the corners of the mouth and welcoming a sense of gratitude. Let's breathe in together through the nose. And let it go. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for being here.